Shabbat Shalom, everybody. It's good to see you all. Or Zarua Lat Sadik, Yishrei Lev Simcha. Light is sown for the righteous, and gladness for the upright in heart. Shabbat Shalom, and thank you for joining us tonight. I ask that if you're part of our Zoom room, to just please keep yourselves on mute so that we can celebrate Shabbat and bring it in as a community. It's such a privilege to be able to lead services tonight. In fact, it's been such a privilege to get to know all of you and have worked with this welcoming and wonderful team this past summer. Thank you so much for giving me this opportunity for an unconventional internship during an unconventional time. Your light truly does shine bright. Cantor Lani is going to lead us in Or Zarua, Psalm 97. And after that, we will be lighting the Shabbos candles. Cantor Lani, thank you so much. I realized that I forgot to introduce myself. I'm Rachel Rothstein. I am a soon-to-be fourth-year student at Hebrew Union College, and I've had the privilege of working with Rabbi Zach Shapiro and Cantor Lani and the rest of their fabulous team at Temple Akiba. Thank you so much for supporting me all summer and helping me with this service and allowing me to lead tonight. I also want to thank Carol Diamond, who's in the background, doing all the emceeing things. Thank you to everybody who's been involved in making this summer possible. One of the things that I got to do this summer, was teach the weekly Torah study and lunch and learn classes. And I've invited participants from those classes to lead the candle lighting blessing tonight. I'm going to ask that in a moment, you all unmute yourselves. It may lead to a little cacophony with everyone saying the prayer at the same time over Zoom, but I've grown to really enjoy hearing your voices. And I think there's something special about what forms when everyone lends theirs. So please go ahead and unmute yourselves and join me in the blessing for candle lighting. I'm going to do a little countdown so we can try and start on the same count as much as possible. 1, 2, 3. Baruch
atah Adonai melech haolam asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav
You could have done it. Go ahead and be yourselves again. Everything that you've added to our discussions so that we can learn from each other this summer. At this point in the service, we will now do the Kiddush. And I'd like to invite my roommate, Emily Holtzman, to lead that for us. Over the course of the summer, she has helped me immensely, giving me great ideas for lessons for our Torah study and lunch and learn. She's become my Havruta, in addition to my roommate. A Havruta is a learning partner, and all the more so, she's become my learning partner this summer. So I wanted to give her the honor of leading the Kiddush tonight.
Thank you so much, Rachel. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav v'ratza banu v'shabbat kodsho be'ahava uvratzon hinchilanu zikaron lemaaseh v'reishit ki hu yom tehila lemikra'ei kodesh zecher letziat Mitzrayim ki vanu v'acharta ve'otanu kidashta mikol ha'amim ve'shabbat kodshecha ve'ahava uvratzon inchaltanu baruch atah Adonai Mekadesh HaShabbat.
Amen.
And now it is my great honor and pleasure to welcome our board member this evening, who also happens to be my older brother, Joshua Kamali.
Welcome, everybody. On behalf of the entire Temple Akiba board, it is wonderful to see all of you here. As you've already figured out or experienced, our service tonight is being led by our rabbinic intern, Rachel Rothstein, who is super cool, and we're very, very lucky to have her. A couple of announcements that Rachel will be leading Torah study on Saturday at 9 a.m. The focus will be the 10 Commandments, and you can get the link to that Zoom on the Temple's webpage. If you have not gotten enough of Rachel by then, she will also be leading our Lunch and Learn on Monday at 12:30. Again, if you want the link to that, you can find it on our webpage. It's wonderful to see all of you all, and again, welcome to tonight's service.
Thank you, Josh. Cantor Lonnie is going to lead us in Mizmor Shir.
Mizmor Shir le'yom haShabbat, Mizmor Shir le'yom haShabbat. Tov lechodot l'Adonai, uzamer le'shimcha elyon, lehagid b'boker chastecha, ve'emunatcha b'leilot, alei asor v'alei navel, alei higayon bechinor, lehagid b'boker chastecha, ve'emunatcha b'leilot, alei asor v'alei navel, alei higayon bechinor.
We now welcome the Shabbat bride as Cantor Lonnie leads us with L'chadoti.
Sing with me at home. Lecha Dodi,
ask if you're able to rise and face whatever entrance in your home to welcome the Sabbath bride. Rachel, you're muted.
Apologies, I didn't want to sing along and cover up your voice. I'm now going to lead you in the Chatzi Kaddish, so if you're comfortable remaining standing, please do so. Yitkada v'yikada shemei Rabba v'yalma divarach hirute v'yamlich malchute v'chayechon uvyomechon uv'chayetecho beit Yisrael bagala bagala uvizman kariv v'yimeru amen. Yeheshve Rabba Mevorach Leolam Yom Yomaya Yitbarach Yitbarach Vishtabach Yitpa'ar Vitromam Vitnaseh Vitadar Vitale Vitalal Shemeda Kudusha Rechu Le'elamin Kol Berchata V'shirata Tushbechata V'nechemata Damiran Biyama Beimeru. Amen. There's a famous story. You may be seated. There's a famous story about Rabbi Yosef Kahneman, a prominent Lithuanian rabbi who lived until 1969. After the Holocaust, he tried to find children whose parents had hid them in convents and church orphanages during the war. Rabbi Kahneman would walk through orphanages in Europe, reciting the beginning of the Shema. Instinctively, some of the children would come out of their rooms, covering their eyes, asking for their mothers, because there was still a sliver of this memory from their nighttime rituals. In a moment, I will be leading the Baruch, which will be followed by the Shema, this blessing that has the ability to unite all Jews. It's like our motto. If you can, please rise for the Baruch. And face east. Ya-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. Ya-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. Ya-da-da-da-da-da, ya-da-da-da-da-da, ya-da-da-da-da-da-da-da, ya-da-da-da-da-da, ya-da-da-da-da-da, ya-da-da-da-da-da-da. Baruch Hu et Adonai HaMevorach. Baruch Adonai HaMevorach HaMevorach Leolam Vaed HaMevorach HaMevorach Leolam Vaed. You may be seated. Actually, it's our custom at Akiba to rise for the Shema. Am I correct? We will now do the Shema. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad, Baruch Shem, Kevod Malchuto, Leolam Vaed. Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha v'chol levavcha v'chol nafshecha v'chol meodecha v'hayu hadvarim ha'ele asher anochi mitzavecha hayom al levavecha v'shinatam levanecha v'dibarta bam B'shivtecha b'veitecha uvlachtecha v'derech u'shochbecha uvkumecha u'kshartam le'ot al yadecha v'hayu letatafot b'neinecha u'ktavtam al mezuzot beitecha u'visharecha L'man tizkeru v'asitem et kol mitzvotai V'yitem kedoshim l'Elohechem. Ani Adonai Elohechem. Asher hotzeiti etchem me'eretz Mitzrayim. Liot lachem l'Elohim. Ani Adonai Elohechem. Adonai Elohechem emet. Cantor Lani will lead us in the Micha Mocha. Thank you. That was so beautiful. Statistically, the probability of any one of us being here on this earth is so small that you'd think the mere fact of existing would keep us all in a contented dazzlement of surprise. We're alive against the stupendous odds of genetics, infinitely outnumbered by all the alternates who might, except for luck, be in our places. Each of us is a self-contained, freestanding individual, labeled by specific protein configurations at the surface of cells, identifiable by whorls of fingertip skin, maybe even by a special medley of fragrance. You'd think we'd never stop dancing. Please rise if you're able for the Amidah as we express our gratitude for the rest that we have been given and our ability to enjoy it. Adonai sefatai tiftach ufi agita hilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu v'Elohei avotenu v'imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor v'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, V'Konei Hakol, V'Zocher Chasdei Avot V'Imaot, U'Mevi Gula Livnei V'Neihem, L'Man Shemo Be'ava. Melech Ozer Moshiach Magen, Baruch Atah Adonai, Magen Avraham Vezrat Sarah. Atah Gibor Le'olam Adonai, Mechayeh HaKol Atah Rav Lehoshia, Murid HaTal, Mechalkel Chayim Bechesed, Mechayeh HaKol Berachamim Rabim, Somech Noflim Verofech Holim, Umatir Asurim, Umekayem Emunato, Lishene Afar, Michamocha Bal Gevurot, Umido Melach, Melech Memi Timechayeh, Umatmiach Yeshua, Be'eman Atah L'chayot HaKol. Baruch atah Adonai mechayeh hakol. Atah kadosh v'shimcha kadosh, u'kadoshim b'chol yom yehalelucha selah. Baruch atah Adonai ha'el hakadosh. Please continue silently with your own prayers until we come back together in a minute. Oh, say shalom, bimromav, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'imeru, amen. Oh, say shalom, bimromav, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, Ve'imeru, amen. Oh, say shalom, bimromav, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'imeru, amen. Oh, say shalom, bimromav, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'imeru, amen. Amen. Cantor, will you lead us in the Misha Beirach? I ask that if anybody is keeping somebody in your heart, whether, no matter what they're dealing with, if they need a prayer for healing, please feel free, if you're watching on YouTube, to put it in the chat box. If you're here on Zoom with us, to write that name or those names in the chat box so we can all support each other as a community. Refuah Shlema to everybody we're thinking of. In 1999, the director Baz Luhrmann wrote a mock commencement address entitled, "Everybody's Free to Wear Sunscreen." It was based on an essay written by Mary Schmick, a writer for the Chicago Tribune, that was titled, "Advice Like Youth, Probably Just Wasted on the Young." How ironic that young me would listen to this quite often over the course of that summer, taking in all of the advice that was offered. Luhrmann's 7-minute speech was mixed with music and distributed worldwide. In fact, it hit #1 in Ireland and the UK. Luhrmann added to Schmick's original essay, lending more Kohelet, Ecclesiastes words of wisdom that stuck in this youth's mind. Whenever I heard the pretty melody begin, I would stop whatever I was doing, turn up the volume on my clock radio, and listen intently. In fact, I eventually memorized all the words. My brother too, perhaps he's watching right now, remembers this song as well. At the conclusion, Luhrmann states that advice is a form of nostalgia. Dispensing it is a way of fishing the past from the disposal, wiping away its ugly parts, and recycling it for more than it's worth. I'm going to say that one more time. Advice is a form of nostalgia. Dispensing it is a way of fishing the past from the disposal, wiping away its ugly parts, and recycling it for more than it's worth. Up until last year, I loved this quote. It connotes the idea that our lived experience is meant to be repurposed and used to learn from. Although I came to disagree with his point about wiping away the ugly parts, because these shouldn't be wiped away or canceled out. We're meant to learn from even these difficulties, and that can't happen if they're swept away or censored. By keeping these parts of the tapestry, we're ensuring that nothing is ever wasted. Even the ugly parts can be educational. While Luhrmann's speech was only a mock commencement address, Moses delivered the real deal in this week's Torah portion, Dvarim. Here we are on the precipice, the first parsha of the last book of Torah, the book of Deuteronomy. We're in the final stretch. I know it's hard to believe when every day feels like a scene from Groundhog Day, but in less than 2 months, we'll be celebrating the new year, and shortly after, we'll be rolling the Torah back to the beginning and starting our Jewish cycle anew. Dr. Andrea Weiss describes Devarim as the beginning of Moses' farewell address, what I understand as his commencement speech to the Jewish people. The Israelites stand on the plains of Moab as they wait to enter the land of Canaan, the promised land. And Moses tells the story of the Israelites' journey from slavery to freedom. And it's not a perfect history, replete with only feel-good stories. The book of Devarim is written from Moses' perspective, a change from previous parshiot, because now we're reading the text in first person. It's intimate and addressed to a collective you. Moses speaks to the generation of the wilderness. He talks to the Israelites as a community, a group that is held responsible for the actions of their ancestors. Even though those present on the plains of Moab were not the ones taken out of Egypt. It hints at the collective memory we so often observe today. To this generation of the wilderness, Moses recounts the killing of the people of Bashan and Heshbon. In Deuteronomy 2, verse 30, God told Moses to begin the occupation and take possession of the land in Heshbon. We captured towns, doomed them, and took every man, woman, and child, leaving no survivor. We also learned that something similar happened with the people of Bashan. The text says, we dealt them such a blow that no survivor was left. While I struggle with these and other ugly parts from our collective memory, I'm glad Moses didn't anachronistically take Baz Luhrmann's advice and wipe them away. In fact, I think these bits of darkness can illuminate something for us. Dr. Ruvain Firestone, a professor of mine from Hebrew Union College, explains that Judaism minimizes the applicability of violence to solve problems or to glorify God or our own selves. He wonders how we're supposed to hold these stories of Bashan and Heshbon, for example, while simultaneously holding stories that seem to contradict these violent messages. He explains that our sages also had a tendency to ignore violent verses or interpret them metaphorically. The Sfat Emet interpreted these kings into abstract impediments to prayer. Dr. Firestone suggests that this strange juxtaposition between acts of genocide and victims of genocide, which we will commemorate this coming week with Tisha B'Av, teach us to take heed and beware of our own tendency to try solving problems through violence. It's a somber warning that we can be both victim and perpetrator. Another bit of advice we learned from this portion is that there's a time for sitting and there's a time for action. Deuteronomy 1:6 recounts God's instruction for us to depart from the base of Mount Horeb, also known as Mount Sinai, because we had stayed long enough. In Deuteronomy 2:2, Moses explains that God told him to turn north after circling the hill country for too long. From these examples, we see that there's a time for pausing, reflecting, and talking. I call this revving the engine. It's the time it takes to warm up and get yourself ready to make a change. Then there's the time to peel yourself out of the couch or from the base of the mountain, lace your shoes, and proceed forward. In this parsha, the Israelites are the graduating class, receiving advice from their humble, unassuming valedictorian, who after quite a journey has finally found his words. And his words contain a spectrum of realities that is at times heartwarming and positive, and at times brutal, violent, and difficult to contend with. Devarim may be the last book of Torah before we re-roll to the beginning. And it's in that space between Devarim and Bereshit that we are presently determining our stories. When we rise, as we are commanded to, in Deuteronomy, in this Parsha Devarim. May we remember these ugly parts in order to reckon with every bit of our history as we proceed towards a promised land. Shabbat Shalom. We now rise for the Aleinu.
No, not so quick.
Ooh, not so quick. Okay.
Not so quick. First of all, Yashar Koach. What a beautiful Devar Torah. And how nice for me personally to be able to stand back and reflect and pray and to learn from an incredible scholar in our midst. Rachel, we have been so fortunate through your presence. You have brought joy, you have brought wisdom, you've brought music and soul. You have been our teacher, and it's given us a new sense of wonderment. What you just shared regarding Moses, I'd never thought about it in this way before. That Moses and the children of Israel were all in the same class. While Moses may have been the valedictorian, he was part of the cohort. It's a beautiful image to remember. And that is a teaching that I will never forget, nor anyone who has just learned with you and from you. Rachel, as you enter your fourth year and soon to be your final time at HUC, you are going to continue to share that joy. How lucky we are at Akiba that we got this window of opportunity for just a few weeks for you to come and be part of our team, making Cantor and I better clergy, making all that you studied with deeper thinkers, and enabling all that you prayed with to see the face of God. How lucky we are. This is a time that God has created specifically for us, and we are so joyful and so very, very blessed through you. You join a long line of interns, both rabbinic, cantorial, as well as education interns, who have been part of our family. You'll never not be a part of it. You're stuck with us forever. And that means that we're going to call upon you to continue to share your wisdom, to share your joy, and to share your light. Cantor and I would love to offer you this blessing. This comes from our soul and our hearts, not just from me and Cantor, but from everyone in this Zoom room, everyone on YouTube, and everyone who's benefited from your light at Temple Akiba.
Yevarechecha Adonai ve'yishmerecha.
May God bless you and keep you.
Ya'er Adonai panav elecha v'yichunecha.
May God's light shine upon you and be gracious unto you.
Yisod Adonai panav elecha ve'yasem lecha shalom. Shalom.
May God's light always shine through you and grant you, Rachel, the gift of peace, of shalom. Amen.
Amen.
Now we invite all who are able to rise for our Aleinu. We face Jerusalem once again. Aleinu l'shabeach l'adon hakol, l'atei gdula liyotzeh b'reishit, shelo asanu kugoyei ha'aratzot, velo hosamanu kemishpachot ha'adama, shelo sam chelkenu kahem, וגורלנו ככל המונם, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא, ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו אחד. Please be seated, everyone. A very special poem by Chana Senesh as we prepare for Kaddish Tom, the mourner's Kaddish. There are stars up above, so far away we only see their light long, long after the star itself is gone. And so it is with people that we loved. Their memories keep shining ever brightly, though their time with us is done. But the stars that light up the darkest night, these are the lights that guide us. As we live our days, these are the ways we remember. Friends, at this time, we remember those who are so very close to us who have died, who continue to shine upon us from their eternal resting spaces. We begin with those for whom we are in Shloshim, the first 30 days of mourning. And that includes Karen Pelletier. She's the daughter of Jan and Ron Nathanson. Ron is a past president. And Jan and Ron, we are so very sorry. It is just wrong to lose a child, as unfortunately so many who are in the service can attest. We also want to share that in this past week, our temple family lost 2 additional members. And though we are not going to be having their funeral service just yet, we want to let the congregation know about the death of David Kamen. This is the father of our member Joshua Kamen, as well as the death of Mort Saperstein, husband of Elaine and father of Sherry. Our hearts go out to all families. May their memories be a blessing. If there is anyone else who is observing Shloshim these first 30 days, please add their names in our chat box so we as a community can see those names. We also remember the yard sites, the anniversaries of the deaths that occur on this Shabbat. We begin with those who have plaques in our Sue and Jerry Erford Memorial Room, including Richard Alexander, Victor Cowan, James Gordon, Harry Halberstadt, Paul Herman, Dorothy Hudson, Esther Rose Luber, Fred Provisor, Elizabeth Schwartz, and Harold Shields. We also remember Donald Abrams, Lillian Antipol, Donald Bernstein, Clara Bogash, Lee Brody, George Ehrenbaum, Ida Fine, Dorothy Fleischman, Anita Glassman, Ben Groveman, Arnold J. Halperin, Helene Hers, Tanya Heyman, Sidney Jacobs, Chieko Kaida, Jack Candell, Seymour Kreisel, Margaret Lambert, Minnie Lasky, Cheryl Marmon, Kathy Marvel, Samuel Perlman, Esther Petrush, Pearl Puritz, Joel Rothblatt, Mary Lou Rutenberg, Jay Schwartz, Jackson Senator, Pauline Serlin, Mordechai Barsano, Erwin Weiss, Phyllis Winograd, Ida Warrobe, Francisco Zelaya. And again, if there are additional names of those that you are remembering for observing yard site, Please share their names in our chat room so we can see them. We ask for all who are able to please rise for Kaddish Yatom, the mourner's Kaddish, which I believe Carol will be sharing as a screen share. Yitkadal, v'yitkadash Shemei Rabbah. V'yalmad divrach rotei v'yamlich malchutei. V'chayechon v'yomechon. V'chayed d'chol Beit Yisrael. Bagala uvizman kari ru amen. Yehi Shemei Rabbah leolam u'almei yitbarach v'yishtabach. V'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh. V'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal. Shemei d'kudusha barichu. Le'elam min kol birchata v'shirata. Tushbechata v'nechemata. Damiran b'alma v'imru amen. Yehi shlama rabba min shemaya. V'chayim. Aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. V'imromav. V'yaseh shalom. Aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'al kol yoshvei tevel v'imru amen. May the one who causes peace to be known in the high heavens help us understand that by reaching out to one another, we create peace on earth as well. For all Israel and for all humanity, we say, Amen. Friends, before our closing song, just a couple of more items to mention. First of all, to Rachel, thank you again so much for enabling us to sit back and pray, not only tonight, but all those nights that you've been with us. We cherish you and we adore everything that you brought to us. So thank you once again. Before our service tonight, our service began at 7. From 6 to 6:45, we had over 100 people from our Akiba resident camp program having their service. It was led by the CITs. They're mostly 15, 16, and 17 years old. And they spoke about how much they love their camp experience. And even though camp is online this summer, not in person, all these people came because they love it so much and they miss being with each other. And you could feel the love, you could feel the energy. And it was beautiful. It was so beautiful. And it's our camp programs that have sustained Temple Akiba for so many generations. If you can see it in your hearts to do what you can to help sustain our camp programs, that would be a mitzvah. That act of tzedakah would be so very important because it's these future generations that help Temple Akiba to grow and to be here no matter what is going on in the world. It takes donations from your pockets to help make sure that these kids all have a bright future. And one of the awesome things about camp is that so many weddings and marriages come from those who met at Camp Akiba. So we need your help to sustain those programs. We ask that you make a pledge or make a donation to help camp go strong for years and years to come. We also want to invite after the service for anyone who is here via Zoom to remain for a few moments, just so we can do a check-in, see how people are doing and not sign off, but we want to see your faces. We want to hear your voices. So after our closing, we will stick around and just schmooze for a while. Ketralani, what are we closing with tonight?
We are closing with Ozi Vizimratia, which is translated to "My strength balanced with the song of God will be my salvation." Vayehi lishua
So beautiful. Thank you everybody for joining tonight. Thank you for letting me be part of your community. I feel that light. I feel it shining bright. Shabbat shalom, everybody.